Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is a slightly chilly morning in Texas this morning. We went from 75 degrees to 19. Woo! I want to welcome everyone to our final episode of our series, Code is Not a Prerequisite for Non-Tech Founders Running a Tech Startup. I'm Christy Whites, all things marketing at Media Tech Ventures, and today I'm joined with Satish Kamsali with the team Imaginnovate. In our final episode, we're going to go over zero to product market fit. For those of you that are not certain what that is, product market fit is all about releasing your product in a strong market and ensuring that the product satisfies the market demand. So in this session, we're going to do a deep dive into how to build your startup from the ground up to product market fit. So we're going to go over what is product market fit in more detail, the stages of the product life cycle, and beyond product market fit, what comes after that. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up Satish. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Christy. Thanks for inviting. And as you're excited, I'm excited that this is the final and last session that we're going to have in this webinar series, and it's been a great experience.
It has been. We've had some really great questions, a lot of engagement from non-tech founders. We're all trying to figure it out at the same time together, and it's great to be able to have an ally like you at Imaginnovate that can help our startups figure that out. So I think we're all set up and ready to go. I have your slides, and I leave the floor to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Christy. Thanks for a brief introduction. Welcome, everyone, to our next webinar session. In 5 sessions, we have discussed on a couple of topics that are related to startups. And in this session, we're going to touch base on how to work on your product startup from zero to product market fit. So before doing a deep dive into the product, I'll just give you a brief introduction about myself. So myself, I'm Satish. I do work with Imaginnovate as a team manager, and for more than 5 years, I've been working with the startups, right from the ideation stage to the stage of their maturity. So it's been a really great experience working with the startups, looking at all the innovation that they bring in, all the excitement that comes in, and all the changes that happens over the due course during the product journey. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start looking into the topic today. Okay. Share my screen. Okay. Okay. So hope you all can look into the screen. So today we're going to cover 3 topics in our session. First is what is product market fit. Second is the stages of product lifecycle along with startup lifecycle. And the third is what to do beyond product market fit. So before we get into the details, let's look at what product market fit is. So product market fit can be defined as a stage like where you are launching a product in a good market which is capable of satisfying the user demands. It can also be stated as a product where it is solving the problem for most of the targeted users with the right solutions that are widely accepted. So at this point of time, you have a stable product that's really doing great, and your users are enjoying using your product, and they're happy to recommend it to others. Okay, and so it's all about the next step from the MVP version, where you have defined the minimal requirements that are required to launch your product, along with the unique selling point that you feel your startup is going to use. And about that, we are going to make the product as stable as we can, refine it as much as we can with the product, with the user feedback, and we are going to come across a stage of startup where your product is going to be called a product market fit, where people are going to use your product and they're going to promote your product because it's going to solve the problem for them, and it's going to resolve their pain points, or also automate a couple of processes that they are doing already. So going to the next question is, why is it important to achieve a product market fit for your startup? So since in the last session we have covered on how to build an MVP in the right way. So for the startups who are starting right from the ideation, or the startups who have reached their MVP version and they are looking beyond. So the reason why you might want to go ahead and reach a stage of your product where it's called a product market fit is because you'll be spending a lot of money or cost in terms of acquisition customers, like getting a customers on board, or do promotions, or doing some research in terms of learning more about the product and the segment that you're launching your product into. So during these courses, you'll be losing a lot of money in terms of operational costs and also running out of resources. So the second point is it becomes really hard to retain the customers after the MVP version, which will be a basic functionalities of what's being expected by the users, plus a unique selling point or anything, any solution that you're built in to solve a problem. So that's going to keep the customers stick to the platform for a short period of time. But you need to refine your product as you journey with the customers for a period of time, along with the feedback, and also looking to the market trends, if any other features that are rolling out by the competitors or that are requirement for the segment are being implemented or not. And third point is providing an undesired needs for the customers. So over a period of time, there might be a couple of business decisions that might be taken right from the ideation to MVP or beyond MVP, which are kind of nice to have features for the customers, or may not be required by the customers for the users to stick to the platform. So there might be some of the undesired needs which are being implemented in the platform. It's important to understand those and not put most of the effort towards that, so that you don't lose a lot of time, effort, and money in implementing those changes. The next point is cannot scale or expand with a clear path ahead. Uh, so after the MVP version, you might see a traction where users are kind of registering more to the platform. They are onboarding to the platform. They're using the platform. But again, after a certain point of time, if they don't see real value of continuing with the platform when compared to other competitors, or something that's not catching up with the trend in the segment or the domain, they'll start moving away from the platform, and this leaves you with a minimum details that you can plan ahead. So it's important to reach a stable point in your startup product journey where you can say that the users are going to stick to the platform, and you have reached a repeatable business model which works for most of the target audience. The final point is you may not be able to satisfy most of the customer needs and might require to change an approach. So, as said, when you start building a product right from ideation, you'll start coming up with a list of assumptions or exceptions, which you assume to be working for the end users. But again, when you test that in real world, it's going to be much different. So as per different personas who are going to interact with the platform, their requirements do change. So at this point of time, you may want to realize, like, what are the uh, most important requirements that are being requested by the tier 1 and tier 2 customers, who are the largest user base that you have for your platform. And you may want to change a couple of implementations or inclusion of features that will bring back the users to the platform. So once you reach a product market fit, all these changes would have been done. Your platform would be in a much more stable state, which kind of keeps the customers stick to the platform. And if the platform is not available, they're going to miss it. So this will move to the next slide, which is talking about when do you consider your product to be a product market fit. So A product market fit for a startup is when 40% of your customers are retained, and 40% of your customers are going to miss the product if that's not available in the market. And your customer acquisition cost has reduced at least to a 3:1 ratio when compared to the beginning or the addition or the MVP stage. So just to give you an example, on the right, you do have a graph that kind of illustrates um, between two different products on the retention curve. On the y-axis, you do have the active users, and on the x-axis, you do have the timeline that is required. So as they both start the journey together, there might be a change depending upon the features that are being implemented or product that is being deployed. And if you can see, the product A does start to at least retain 40% of the customers over a period of time, right from the MVP version to the following future. But the product B does not do that. They keep spending a lot of money in terms of onboarding the customers, also implementing a lot of features which are not desired by the end user, which kind of are nice to have features but are not vital for the solution to be accepted as uh, as widely as product A. Okay, so moving on to the next question, as now that we know what a product market fit is and how important that is, let's look at couple of ways how we can achieve product market fit for your startup. So the first point is validate market for your product and focus on your target requirement. Focus on target customer requirements. So it's important that you validate the market for your product. That can be in terms of geolocation, that can be in terms of culturally, and also if the problem does really exist in the market that you are trying to launch your product. And secondly, for in the market, what are the existing who are the existing competitors, and are you actually fulfilling all the requirements that your target customers are willing to accept as a platform for their solution. And the second point is lean startup is all about being iterating on your initial product until you reach a product that is widely accepted. So lean startup is all about building a product right from ideation to MVP, then from MVP to a product market fit based on different user feedbacks that are being accepted, at the same time analyzing the trends on how user is interacting with the product, and the feedback given by the users are valid for the future goals that you have aligned for the product. And most of the time, the product that's been envisioned in the ideation stage does change to almost a 60% by the time it reaches a product market fit. And that's a good thing, because change is bound to happen and you're responding back to the request that's been actually put together by the end users, which they are willing to accept as a fully functional product for them. And at this point, you'll also be able to compete with the competitors in terms of features, and also fulfilling the requirements and gathering the feedback and moving forward and setting direction for your startup. The fourth point is build your minimum viable product, right? So as you start working on your product journey, it's important that you make the right choice of features, which can be combination of your unique selling point for the startup and also the basic or standard functionalities that are expected for these kind of solutions that are already available in the market. So it's really important to get your minimum viable product right, okay, which was covered in our previous webinar session. And the final point is iterate and refine your product until you have reached a product market fit. So it's all about gathering as much as feedback you can, creating robust feedback channels for the end users so that they can share thoughts and their requirements if they would like to see any new features added to the platform, or they would like to give you a list of enhancements that you would like to see in the platform. So it's always important to gather the feedback, iterate and refine the product till you reach product market fit. This can be based on the feedback from retail customers or business to business customers. So um, this brings us to the second topic of our webinar series today, which is product lifecycle of a startup. So before jumping into product lifecycle, let's take a look at different stages that are in a startup. Okay, so typically in a startup, we do have around 7 stages, starting from ideation, which is basically conceptualizing and building an idea which you think is going to solve a problem, resolve some of the pain points of the end users in the market, or automate a couple of jobs for the end users where a platform is not available today to do the job. And the second stage is a startup stage where you have verified your idea. You see a value in the market for the idea, and you see a lot of user requirement for that. And this is where you form a legal entity and you get started with the development. And this is when you start focusing on problem solution fit, which is basically you identify that a problem is there in the market and you need to find a solution for that. And then after that you'll be start working on MVP version, and within 1 to 5 months you'll be reaching an MVP version. And that's when you start onboarding the early adopters and start testing the MVP version with them and get the feedback and iterate on multiple phases from there. And after that, the next phase is growth, where you typically plan on product market fit and then stable increase in the customers and infrastructure updates to support growing businesses and reach a business model that is repeatable and that works for most of the target customers. The next stage is established, where you create a brand name for yourself or your product and uh, look into different business opportunities that can be B2B or B2C. And the next one is the next stage in the startup life cycle is expansion, where you have a stable product that can compete with the established competitors in the market. And also, you can plan for expansion into different geographic locations or looking into different adjacent markets services that can be aligned with your product. The next stage is maturity, is where you kind of implement all new modules and other functionalities that can be nice to have features and also revolutionary in your product line. And then the exit, which can be of different modes. So, aligned with startup life cycle, your product is also going to evolve over a period of time. Let's have a look at that. So, in the ideation stage, your product is an idea that you would like to implement. At this point of time, you might want to do a product research on the market, like whether the product is required. If required, are there any competitors that are available? If they are there, what's missing in their product, and why do you think your product going to do much better than the existing solutions? And the next is target customers. Look at different early adopters or different customers that can be retail customers or business to business customers who are willing, who will be willing to accept your solution as a platform for them. And then at the end of ideation stage, you might want to validate your idea in the market and see how people are responding to that. That can be a wireframes or a proof of concept that you'd like to demo and get a feedback on that. The next stage is startup, and by this stage, you might want to validate the idea, create a legal entity for your startup, and start working towards a problem solution fit. Problem solution fit is you have identified that there's a problem in the market, and you have a solution that's going to address the problem, which will be accepted by wide number of target audience. Now, aligning with the problem solution fit, you're going to design your MVP version, which is going to have the core functionality that you would like to design or implement in your product, along with the basic or standard functionalities that are expected in this line of solutions already in the market or the domain. And once you reach an MVP version, which is a key point, you start collecting the feedback as discussed earlier, and Then you start iterating on the MVP version in multiple phases until you reach a point where you see the business model is stable, and that takes to our next stage of startup, which is growth. Okay, so by this stage, all the iterations from the MVP are going to lead your product to a product market fit, where your product is going to fit in the will be positioned in the market very well, and then it's going to serve the user demands, and then it will allow you to scale and expand into different domains. The next stage of the startup is established, where you create a brand. Okay, and this is where you're already competing with your competitions in the market, and also you can create new business opportunities for your product. So since you have a pretty good record of iterations from MVP, and you have been successful with the product being used by the end users, and they are recommending product to the others, at the same time you are able to retain the users, you'll be able to forecast the growth for the next couple of years with respect to your product. So in your expansion startup life cycle, your product is going to be okay. Your product is going to be ready for integrating with new modules, expanding into new regions, and this is going to bring a lot of new opportunities. At the same time, also put a request forward to the infrastructure updates that will help you scale. And the last is maturity, where your revenue growth seems to be on a positive end, and also you keep adding a lot of huge customer base, considering your product market fit is doing really well, and you're making enhancements based on that and improving that in every direction. And so, though there are 7 stages in startup life cycle, and the product kind of evolves along with the startup life cycle. On an overview, there are 5 key stages where key direction of the product changes. One is ideation, where you validate. The second is problem solution fit, where you identify that there's a problem in the market, and your solution is going to address most of the concerns from the end users. And the third is a minimum viable product, where your product has evolved into a shape where it includes both the unique selling point of your product, along with the core functionalities, and then the basic and standard functionalities that are expected by the users in the line of the market or domain. And the fourth one is product market fit, where your product is being part of a market which is having demand for your product. At the same time, your product is capable of satisfying the demand from the end users in terms of expectations and also functionalities. The final state is scale and expand. After your product market fit, your growth for the revenue and also the stability of the platform is going to be assured. So that's when you will be planning for scaling and expanding your product into multiple directions. So with this, our second topic for the day is complete. We'll be looking at the third topic, which is beyond product market fit. So, so with product market fit, you're almost at a stable state where the retention and acquisition are kind of balanced. Like you spend less on acquisition, and retention becomes more natural, and you spend less on activation, and that's been done. So there are a couple of key metrics that will help you identify the state of your product. So starting from acquisition, which is how much do you spend to onboard a customer, right from MVP version to the product market fit and beyond. And then activation is how great your user experience is when the user first onboards to the platform. The next is retention, is like uh, how long is a user can be retained with respect to your platform, and keeping the churn rate as low as possible. And the fourth one is revenue, where you might want to start your business model, revenue generation based on the product that you are planning and the business goals that you have. That can be started right from the MVP version or on multiple phases of iterations or from the product market fit when it's established. And the final key metric is referral, where your customers or the stakeholders are happy to refer your product to others. Okay. Now, acquisition and referrals will be the post product market fit uh, growth indicators, while activation and retention will be key metrics that you'll be observing before the product market fit, where you'll be spending more of time and try to make as much as traction as possible with the end users and keep the users stay with the platform. And revenue is something that you would like to track along with the growth of your product. Okay. So what's beyond product market fit? So beyond product market fit, it's all about accelerating your growth with a stable version of your product, and that's been on demand with the end users. You will be seeing an exponential growth in terms of user base, and so you should be planning for that in terms of scalability and also expand into multiple geographic locations. And second one is business model that works for your product. So with a lot of iterations right from the MVP version, you may want to iterate the business model and reach a business model where it is repeatable for different target users. And reaching a product market fit will also ensure you that you can expand to new geographic locations or create services that are with respect to subdomains, and also services which are adjacent to your product line. And the last point is exploring new business opportunities. So this might be something that you can consider while you're exploring into different directions. You can move forward from a product market fit where it is established, and you can make your best bets on different possible opportunities that you can consider the market can offer you. Okay. So with this, our webinar today is complete. And so we at Imaginnovate, we have started working with startups. So I'll give you a brief introduction about our company and kind of services that we do and the kind of engagement that we have with the startups. So we have experience working with startups for more than a decade now, and we have worked with more than 50 plus startups. And the startups that we have worked with have generated more than 10 million in cumulative revenue. And there are 10 high growth startups who are growing 100% year on year in terms of user base and also revenue. And there are 6 startups who have raised a minimum of $1 million in funding. And we have continuous engagement with most of the startups that we have worked even from the initial days. And some of our startup clients are Blended Sense, Angel Eye, You Earned It, BidOps, Unitag, Calypso, AutoThink, Believe Nutrition, and there are many more. Okay. So, considering our experience with more than 50 startups, we have observed that we have spent most of our effort working on developing the startup products for 6 verticals, to be specific: media tech, medtech, edtech, e-commerce, lifestyle tech, and mobility tech. And in terms of technology, we work on web application development, mobile application development, DevOps as well. So mobile application, we work both on hybrid and native platforms. Hybrid, we work on React Native, Flutter, while on native, we work on iOS and Android application development. For web application development, we work on different technologies, starting from React, Angular, Vue.js, and the backend technologies such as Node.js, Ruby on Rails, and Java. So we also work on cloud technologies such as Cloud, Google, and AWS. So, so how do we help with startups, or how do we engage with startups? So there are different types of engagement that we typically have with startups. One is tech analysis, where we review the current status of your startup and do a quick analysis on the technology aspects of your startup and get back to you with a quick report that's going to give you a glimpse of the status of the technology and the way forward. The next is a discovery session where we work with the startup in the ideation stage and we define the technology strategy, development roadmap, and implementation plan. And in terms of development, we have different types of engagement with startups that range from building a prototype, working on a minimum viable product, and working on a project that can be fixed and time and material. We also work with startups who already have association or engagement with third-party vendors for their software development, and also with the startups who already have an internal team but would like to get engaged with us. So we do staff augmentation as well. And the last service is a technology consulting, where we review the snapshot of your technology over a period of time, and then we get back to you with a deep diving report that's going to help you plan forward. Okay, and that's all about our session today. And thanks for the opportunity.
Yay! Thank you. That was a lot of information. My head is still a little spinning from it all. Please, everyone, you are welcome to ask questions. That's why we're here. We leave the time open at the end of each presentation for you to ask your most pressing questions about the topic. So please feel free to reach out. Satish, I'd like to go back and talk to you about, you talked a little bit about the key metrics that one should measure: acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, and referral.
Yeah.
Is there an average percentage that you're looking at in terms of growth, or is it really all dependent on the goals of the company for that?
It depends on company, but again, ideally you can give some number like retention should be at least 40% once you reach a product market fit, and acquisition cost should come down at least to 3:1 ratio from the MVP version, because at the MVP version you'll be spending a lot of effort in terms of marketing and other ways to onboard the customers. So that should come down. And revenue model, it depends upon the product, because so many products kind of start with a freemium model, then go into ads management and other revenue models.
Okay, that's good to know. We get asked a lot, like, is there a specific metric and percentage I'm supposed to be measuring? Yes, there is. So that's very helpful. I appreciate you expanding on that some. You talked about the important stages of your product: the ideation, the problem solution fit, the minimal viable product, which is what we talked about last week. And then we move into product market fit and scale and expand. So I want to talk a little bit about that scale and expand, because some feel like that they are, before they've even really gotten out of their full MVP stage, that they're already ready, like they have something, it's been proven, and now we're ready to go. How do you know from that point where you have your MVP to that now I'm ready to scale stage? Like, I don't, like, most jump the gun and then they end up going all the way back and backtracking because they didn't have their fundamentals together. What would you recommend for those that are in that in-between space?
Got it. So right after the MVP, you might have a traction in the beginning, onboarding a lot of users and looking a lot of traffic coming in. That might lead to misconception. But again, it's important to understand from MVP to product market fit, your operational cost should go down along with your marketing cost. Like how much you're spending to acquire a customer, or how much you're planning to make in terms of revenue should go down. Like revenue should go up, the rest of the cost should come down. Okay. Once you reach a point where you're retaining at least 40% of your customers for over a period of time, that's when you say you are at a product market fit.
Perfect. We actually have a question from our very own Ted Cohen. He would like to know, do you have a recommended tech stack for a media-focused app developer?
Got it. That's really great. It's always good to start with latest technologies, but again, have a stable version of technologies which are already proven are good. If you're planning to go ahead with a mobile application development, you should look for Flutter and React Native. Both these platforms are hybrid platforms, and they'll help you deploy these applications both on iOS and Android, so that you don't have to develop the same functionality differently in iOS and Android native versions. Okay, so that's one single code base for different solutions. And if you're talking about MediaTek, the backend can be Node.js and frontend can be React.js. Okay, and MediaTek, to be specific, there are a lot of services, CDNs, content delivery network services that are available from Google and also AWS, which you might want to consider, because they'll be allowing you to transfer a lot of media content over to the users with less hassle, like less of buffer time and all. Okay, that will be.
That's good information. Thank you for that. Given that we are all in the media tech space, it's always good to know what we should be looking at from a tech stack perspective. So thank you for that question, Ted. I open up the floor to anybody else who has any questions, but I'd like to dive into, so one thing that we talk a lot about is that problem solution format. And you mentioned that it's before our minimum viable product, but I believe that that's always meant to be revised and revisited over time, because the problems your people have now might not be the problems they have in a year. And you might have solved that, and now they have a new problem that's come up. So how do you handle the backtracking or the new iterations of the problem solution format?
Got it. So that's the beauty of lean startup, where you just focus on what's really required. Like there may be too many problems that you would like to solve, but again, it's important: are they aligned with your product goals? Are they aligned with your end goal of the product? And then based on that, you start picking the problems that are relevant, are aligned, and start solving them. Okay, and the iterations that can be right from problem solving fit stage or MVP or post MVP versions, it's important to keep track of them and make sure they are aligned to your goals.
Yep, it's all about those goals. So what you're saying is I have to have a strong foundation and know what my goals are and what I'm trying to achieve before any of this is possible. And that might change over time too. So aligning goals with your trajectory is important to consistently keep looking at.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So what you get started with as an idea, as I said, over a period of time, it's going to change almost 60%. Like you might have envisioned during the ideation stage, like your dream project is going to have these kind of features or it's going to do X, Y, Z. But over a period of time, what you hear from the customers and the kind of problems that you keep solving over a period of time are going to transform your product into something that's more beautiful and that's more strong than you ever imagined. That's
I remember you showing us the first versions of YouTube and the first version of Twitter. Somebody shared, I can't remember where it is, the first version of Spotify. And it was literally a hand-drawn little outline of what they thought that would be. And I appreciate seeing where things have developed and come from. So everything that you see now that people use had its first version once upon a time that was probably not as pretty or as well refined. And so I want people to know that and recognize that although you have high expectations for where you think your MVP is going to be, and then finding your product market fit, all of that might change. Like first iteration of everything is important to recognize it for what it is, and then continue to keep expanding and building upon it and refining and making it better. And so try not to get discouraged, our non-tech founders, if something does not look and or function exactly the way that you're wanting it to, or the way that you originally thought that it was envisioned to be. Like as the person that had the idea that is creating it, I know firsthand that you can kind of get stuck in your perception of your vision of what you thought it was. And that can be a little hard to let go of. And so just recognize that leveraging that data and paying attention to those metrics and what your user is saying that they want is the most important thing versus what you think you thought you needed. All right, awesome. Well, if we have no other questions, no other comments from anyone, then I think we are good to end everything. Satish, I want to thank you and Imaginnovate again for putting this series together with us, for helping to support our startups and our non-tech founders. I know it's already daunting enough to be an entrepreneur and to try to find your way in things, but now you have this idea and lack of skill set that you're trying to bring to life, and it can be overwhelming. And that's why Media Tech Ventures is here. If you're within the media tech space, we have a community to support you. We have great community members and mentors like Satish and Imaginnovate that are within our community to help guide you and to give you the resources. So all of Satish's presentations are available on his profile on mediatech.ventures. It is free to join us, set up your profile, introduce yourself to people. We have lots of mentors, teachers, investors, and like-minded media tech folks within the community. And please, please go take a look at these slides. They are going to help you as you're moving through your journey. So Satish, thank you again to you and to Imaginnovate. And I really hope that we can continue to support startups together.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thanks, Christy. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye all.